Race fans, it's time to buckle in and listen to the fastest hour in racing radio. Your driver is a multi-time NASCAR winner and Hall of Famer Mark Martin. We cover racing, grassroots, history, we bench race, we talk life, and most importantly, we smash the loud pedal. It's time to turn some laps on the Mark Martin Podcast.
Episode number 36 of the Mark Martin Podcast, and we're going to jump into the years 1994, 1995, and 1996, an action-packed episode today. But before you do that, head on over to the website, markmartinpod.com, markmartinpod.com. Get all of your listen links available on many new platforms, so get over there, find out your favorite app on your phone, on your iPad, or online. And also make sure to listen to the old episodes and give us that 5-star rating in your app store. But Mark, you're going to do 3 years today, and you got a lot of information to pack into the years 1994, 95, and 1996.
Honestly, in my mind, and like I've said before, that's really what counts, and that's what imprints the memory, of these things. Every year we've talked about leading up to this, except for really 92, 91, 92. Every year has been a remarkable year. I have vivid memories of lots of stuff. As I'm settling into the NASCAR thing, and we're having less remarkable seasons maybe than what I had in 1990. That it kind of, that I don't remember as much. So, it's less remarkable. I'm sorry. There's just not a big deal. I've enjoyed talking about the other years. 93 was a milestone year. 91 and 92 really wasn't. So here we go into 94 after setting the world pretty well on fire in 93. And, we continue our really trademark consistency, and I've kind of earned the nickname Mr. Consistency at this point. And just an overview of 94, we had we had reliability issues. We had DNFs. We had 8 DNFs. And you can't win a championship like that. And we didn't. We ran second to Earnhardt in the championship, but he clobbered us 444 points. So it wasn't even close. Still yet, it was a good year. We went to Watkins Glen and sat on the pole and won the race for the second year in a row. So where we swept the pole in the race. We had a lot of top 5 finishes. We had, and then we won at Atlanta, the final race of the season. The Atlanta race, the final race of the season. Like I said before, I loved that racetrack before they reconfigured it. It was such an amazing place to race. It was so much fun. Multi bank angles and just such a challenge and so much fun. It was like a big giant short track. So that was really a lot of fun. To restate, we were strong. We were top 5 all over the place. Top five. Just wound up with a couple of wins for the season. That was okay with all the top 5 sprinkled in. We had our weakness was our reliability, and so we moved into 95, and we kind of we picked it up a little bit. We lessened the DNFs to some degree. We had a lot of good runs. Finally, we had a decent start to the season. We finished third at Daytona, and then seventh at Rockingham, the second race, and eighth at Richmond, and ninth at Atlanta. So we got off to a good start. We're collecting points, thinking this was all going to look good, and we go to Darlington, the fifth race of the season, and finish 37th. So there again, that ugly DNF stuff, rears its head again. But we have we have a good speedway car, good speedway program. We go to Talladega and we get the win. Amazing. As much frustration as I've had at Daytona, I have much better results and better luck at Talladega at this point in my career. We go to Sonoma the next week and we run second. Sonoma just really, really runs strong. So our road racing program is really, really strong at this point as well. Then Watkins Glen comes around the corner again, and we sit on that road race car that Steve built me was just unbelievable. It was just a crazy car. It's the only race we ran it all year was the Glen, because it was offset for right-hand turns, and the Sonoma car was centered up because it was more right and left turns at that time, with the having the carousel corner still in the course. So we used a different car out there. But yeah, we sat on the pole for the third year in a row, swept the pole and the race at the Glen, and so that was pretty cool. We won at North Wilkesboro. I remember that race. My family was there. Arlene was there, and Heather and Rachel and Stacy and Matt were all there for that race, which was pretty cool because back then we didn't have motorhomes at that racetrack or anything, so they must have had to hang out in the car or something during the race. I don't even know what they did, but it had to be miserable for them. But it was pretty darn cool to be in Victory Lane. They took us up on top of the concession stand. The car went up on the top of that for the victory celebration. It was really cool. Then we go the next week to Charlotte in October and really run good there. Pull off the win, qualify fifth, pull off the win there. So it was a really good season, solid improvement in our DNF reliability issues, and a little bit sharper on the racetrack as well for speed. And then we move into to 96, and we go to Daytona and have another good finish in 96 for the 500. We finished fourth. It's so great to come out of there with a respectable finish, the first race of the season, and collect some points. But we go to Rockingham and have a 32nd place finish. So one step forward, one step back kind of thing. This is a year where we, for some reason, and I don't remember what the details were, but we fell behind the competition in 96 on speed. However, we got down toward the end of the season, we really picked it up. But at the beginning of the season, we were off on speed. We had some poor finishes, went to Dover, finished 40th. This was probably the year that I don't remember what year it was, but we blew right front tires up there at Dover all the time. Every year we go up there and be flying. and pop a right front tire. So I talked Steve into taking a low snout car to Dover, and we're leading the race, and blew a right rear out and crashed and totaled it. And that was my favorite low snout car. It was our first low snout Laughlin car that we had built, and it was my favorite, but we totaled it. And so we built another one like it. And I don't know if it was the body or what it was, but I nicknamed it Booger because that sucker was a booger. I hated that car. It heated up the right rear tire. It would be tight as it could be and smoking the right rear tire off of it. It was it was an awful race car. And I never did like it. We tried to run it multiple times. But yeah, we had that setback at Dover with the 40th place finish. So, but we really turned it up at the end of the year. After Loudon, we finished 32nd. But after Loudon, we go to Pocono, and we finish 9th. Then Talladega 3rd. Then Indianapolis 4th. Then Watkins Glen 3rd. Then Michigan's 2nd. Bristol 3rd. Darlington 3rd. Richmond 9th. Dover 5th. Martinsville 9th. North Wilkesboro 9th. 2nd at Charlotte, 7th at Rockingham, 2nd at Pocono. No, I'm second at Phoenix, I'm sorry. And then 7th at Atlanta. So that kind of run, if we could have ever put a first half a season on top of that second half, we could have really probably won a championship, but we never got the whole season put together. Even though we didn't get a win there in that second half, that's what you got to do. It was top 10 every single race. We did not have a finish worse than 9th for the whole second half of the season. So that was, that was encouraging, and that kind of set us up for 1997. Where we had kind of an exciting year and some exciting developments. We were growing at Roush and adding cars. I don't know even how many teams we had at this time, probably 4 or 5. So, multiple teammates. Still, a 6 car was sort of at the top of the food chain. Up until the year that Jack added Jeff Burton's team with Buddy Parrott. Jeff Burton was he redefined Roush racing. He was a really smart guy, and Jack wanted to challenge the Liberty operation. And so he saw this as an opportunity to do everything different than was being done in Liberty. So he gave Jeff Burton 100% leash to go out and do and define a race team the way he wanted it. But he and Buddy Parrott, so they put together an incredible program. Outsourced their bodies and just did a whole lot of things, and quickly made a huge difference in Roush racing and improvement in the 6 car. And we'll get to that. In 97, we start talking about 97, and then 98 as well. 97 is an exciting season. 98 is probably, numbers-wise, it's probably the best season of my career. But I still think 2009 is my best season of my career for a lot of reasons. I was old as hell, 50 years old, and shouldn't have been doing what I was doing. But 98, the numbers are massive. And Jeff Burton had a hand in that making that better. So, there were things sprinkled along the way here, back up to '94, and I got my first IROC championship, and then I got another one in '96. So during this time, outside of the Cup car, I'm having really, really great success. Just the man to beat every time I strap into an IROC car, the man to beat every time I strap into that Winn-Dixie car. And so whether I go winless for the season in '96 or not, I'm still winning races, and it's causing us to look and analyze our program, Cup program, and try to see what it is that we're doing wrong, because definitely being able to make it happen everywhere else. So 94 and 95 were good seasons. I mean, this was at a time when there seemed to be quite a few teams that could win races. So if you got a couple, you were doing pretty good. If you got four, like we did there in '95, you were doing really good. So it was 3 good seasons, just not as remarkable as some of the others. That the ones that are most important to me were the ones, my first few years, especially 77 through 81, because without those years and without the incredible success that we had and the unbelievable things that we did, I would never have had a NASCAR career. That was the foundation that my NASCAR career was built on, and I'm more proud of that because I had less, I had less people, with a hand in it. I mean, once you get to Cup racing, and I start working with Jack Roush and Steve Mill and Robin Pemberton and all these incredible people, then it becomes, a lot more dependent on an entire team. And also, we've had success. We've had success in Cup. 89, 90 were amazing, and now we're out there winning races every year, and it's expected instead of a surprise, and that tends to take some of the fun out of it. When you have high expectations. If you don't meet or exceed those expectations, it's pretty well heartbreaking. And so as I go through this period of time from 94 through 96, I begin to continue my frustration with not being able to put it all together. We can do it pieces. We can be spectacular on bodies, but not be spectacular on pit road, or we can be spectacular on pit road and not be spectacular, with engine dependability or car reliability or whatever. So, the frustration beginning to mount, especially with not winning in '96. Now I'm starting to be afraid that I've seen my last win in my career. Even though I'm 37 years old, I'm concerned, because it seems no matter how good we ran, somebody else ran better. We could be spectacular, but someone else, there'd be one guy that was even better yet, or something would happen or whatever. And so it was starting, the frustrations were continuing to mount and weigh on my shoulders. And so it will be interesting as we go forward here and see how all that plays out.
So tell us about the IROC stuff. First championship in '94, and then another one in '96. You drove a Dodge Avenger, won at Darlington amongst many other wins. Tell us about, was that like a breath of fresh air to get out and do something different, or did you feel like just another obligation at that point?
Well, it was an honor to be able to race with some of the greatest race car drivers in the world. Got a chance to meet and race with, all kinds of Emerson Fittipaldi and Formula One drivers and just great, awesome people, race car drivers that I got to meet and got to know and got to race with. It was truly an honor to be invited to be a part of that. You had to be top 4 in NASCAR points to even be invited. So there were years in here sprinkled in here that I wasn't invited in. Of course, if you won the championship, you were invited back the following year. So if you won the championship, you were invited back, or if I was top 4 in points in NASCAR points, I'd get invited back. So it was just an honor, and it was the first check mark. It was an honor. I was thrilled over the moon when I got invited to be a part of it in 1990. But to be able to win that championship was just crazy. It was just crazy. And to be able to come back and do it again in 96, now we're really starting to feel like we're on a roll. Every time we're strapping in that car, it's 4 races a year. Every time we strapped in that car, it was like magic. And the competition and the guys that worked on the IROC cars were really taking notice, and they were saying stuff that make you feel good. They were saying things about me, and nothing makes you feel better than to either look at the top of a lit scoreboard and see your car number, or have your peers shake their head and say, man, I don't know how he does it. And those are the two most gratifying things that I think I've ever experienced in racing.
In 2014, there was a special race, a Busch race, that you subbed for Ernie Irvan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was after Ernie's accident, and Ernie and I had become really, really good friends, and his wife Kim and Arlene were really good friends, and we spent a lot of evenings at the racetrack at one another's motorhomes, and we had gotten really, really close. Ernie is such a cool dude, and I really respected the things that, where Ernie had come from, the person that he was, and what he was made of, and how he had adapted to NASCAR, changed his driving style, which is very difficult to do, but he changed it so that he could succeed in a big way. And so he had his devastating accident, and he had a sponsor for his Busch car as well. His accident was in the 28 car and a Cup car, but he had his Busch car anyway. He was scheduled to run Bristol, and of course he was laid up in the hospital. So I ran it and didn't take any pay for it, in order to just check a race off the list for Ernie, and so that was what that was all about, was just trying to help out a friend. I was totally devastated. It was the first time that I'd had somebody that close to me get so seriously injured in a race car.
How did that come about? Did they call you? Did you offer your services? Tell us how that all came about.
I offered, and I don't remember the details other than I knew that he had that race was scheduled, and I think he had his team and his car was prepared, and I volunteered to do that if they were up for it, and they were, so we did it.
Anything stand out about 1994? Reese's came on board as a sponsor of your car.
Well, it was good to have. We were rolling, man. We had Valvoline, we had Cummins on board, and then we had Reese's come on board, which was a really feather in our cap. We were getting really good, solid sponsors. They were paying good money, and it was a good program. So, it was we're really riding high. We had a very, very good, strong, marketable program. We had a lot of fan support, and I was really lucky through my years that we had a lot of fan support. And even if the fans, even if I wasn't the fans' favorites, they didn't dislike me, and that was kind of cool. That was sort of my trademark. As people, I didn't make a lot of enemies. I didn't piss a lot of people off. I had a certain amount of enemies, and they were Earnhardt fans or later Gordon fans, because I threatened, their driver, not because we had any problems, because we never had any problems on the racetrack to speak of, but but because they were passionate about their driver, and I was contending to take wins from them. So those were the only ones. It was a smaller group. I never got booed the way Earnhardt did or Waltrip did, or as later, some of the other guys that came along. That would have been devastating to me. I couldn't have. I wouldn't wanted to have to handle that. I'm not going to say I couldn't have handled it, because I would have had to, and I'd had to figure out how to deal with it, but I wouldn't have wanted to. That wasn't me. I just wasn't the bad guy. Even though I made mistakes in my career, and had accidents and different things, I wasn't the black hat guy. I wasn't a bad guy. I was sport and sportsmanship, and may the best man win kind of a guy.
Tell us about 1994. You had a wreck at Talladega. Quite the wreck in the infield. You survived it, obviously, but tell us about that big wreck.
Yeah, well, if that's the one, we tangled in the tri-oval. Somebody wrecked in front of me and clacked me in the right front wheel, which broke the brake rotor. The clack broke the brake rotor, and it turned the car sideways at 190 mile an hour. And I couldn't get it to respond. It was sideways. I had no brakes, and I couldn't get it to quit. I couldn't get it to turn back straight, go back with nothing. It was just hung sideways and traveled all the way down through there. And Larry Degens had passed away in an accident at Kaukauna because a guardrail. I wasn't there, but because a guardrail came up inside and got him. And I was scared of guardrails for that reason. And I'm headed toward that guardrail and thinking this could be it. And I sailed through that guardrail. It didn't even slow me down. Sailed through that guardrail, sailed through a chain link fence, and then into a berm, which really hurt. Like getting kicked in the balls really hard. So it was interesting when I climbed out of the car, and the guys from TV just couldn't stand themselves. What was you doing after you got out of the car? What was hurting? It's like, damn, dude, what do you think? You saw me bow over. What'd you think? So anyway, it was that's what went down. So we go back for the next race, and I see that they've put concrete wall there. And there's little doubt in my mind that if that concrete wall would have been there when I hit it, it would have killed me, because I went through it head on, and I would have hit that concrete wall head on, with like straight on, head on, probably at 150 mile an hour. There's no way I could have survived it. But blind luck, in that situation. Thank God there was a guardrail, and thank God it didn't come in the car and cut me in half.
1996 is when Jeff Burton came along. You guys swelled up to a 3-car team, would later go to a 5-car team. I mean, you're the original guy. You're the original Roush guy. What was it like to start having all these different teams and to kind of watch NASCAR, grow at that point in the mid-90s?
Well, having a second car in Liberty, I was never really keen of, because the 6 car was at the top of the heap, and everything flowed down from there. Nothing flowed back up. That's not proper. Not enough flowed back up to the 6 car. In other words, the 16 car didn't bring enough performance advantage and sucked it out of, from personnel, from trying to get cars done, from having enough, diluting the personnel to try to field a second car. I wasn't crazy about it. I understood that the financial part of it was a little bit better, but it still diluted our effort. Well, when Jeff Burton came along, Jack had decided he wanted to show Liberty, and the way Liberty was being run, how things could be done. And he told Jeff, he said, I want you guys to do everything different. I want to put you in Mooresville, North Carolina, put you in your own shop, and you guys, you don't get anything from Liberty. You do it your own. So it was a very separate team to start with. And Jeff quickly outran me. I mean, he flat out outran me enough right away to get my attention, or he outran me, or ran with me and outran me. I mean, he got my attention. And so immediately he had something to bring to the 6. And so immediately I had something, that's how you do. You take something. If you want something for somebody, you don't go ask them for it. You take them something and you give them a gift. And then you get a gift back. And that's how Jeff and I operated early on. Was he earned my respect. He was running good enough that and doing things different enough that he could show me some things about hardware, cars, bodies. They did things different with the personnel, and it all worked. And so we quickly became strong teammates, and that grew in '97, and we'll expand on that. And then in '98, we wound up moving into the same shop with Jeff with the '99.
Busch Series, you kept clicking along. 1996 had 6 wins in a short schedule in the Winn-Dixie car. Knocked off 3 in a row at one point, Darlington, Bristol, and Charlotte, and then back to Charlotte and Rockingham. That program kept singing along throughout the years. Yeah,
that thing was just, it was awesome. It was massive. It wasn't that damn hard. You put the bodies on it like you wanted them, and if you got the bodies on them like you wanted them, and you got the chassis that I wanted, and put the front spindles on it like I wanted, and you put the springs and shocks on it that I wanted, and you hung the body on it like I wanted, it would be extremely difficult to beat that car. I mean, it was just as simple as that.
So around that time is when people started getting ornery about cherry picking and and Cup drivers in the Busch Series and the crossover and stuff like that. What was, your thoughts as that kind of that drama unfolded?
I didn't care. They were complaining about me, like they complained about Kyle Busch in the end there. So it's okay if you're a Cup driver and you run the Busch Series if you don't win a lot. But if you win a lot, you shouldn't be running. And that was kind of the thought process, to put it bluntly. And we had a great sponsor that brought a lot of recognition to the series with Winn-Dixie, and it was great. It was great for the series to have me in there and have Winn-Dixie in there. But we did win. We won too much. We run 16 races or so, 16, 18 races, and win nearly half of them. And some people were sick of that.
So another thing that happened in 1996, and this is the last thing we'll go over, but you actually ran a truck for the first time. What was it like, running a NASCAR Craftsman truck at that point?
So I hadn't, when they introduced the truck series, I thought it was goofy, and I was too busy anyway to mess with it. I had so much on my plate. The last thing I was interested in doing was run some stupid ass truck. And so they got the series going, and for a few years, and they were putting on some great races. And I don't remember, somehow or another, and Jack had trucks, and somehow or another the opportunity came up for Exide to sponsor a truck for me to drive at North Wilkesboro. And so I was like, yeah, that's all I do. That's what I do. I'm a race car driver. I drove every time I could strap in something. I drove every Cup car, every Busch car, every short track late model race. I flew all over the place racing. I was racing all the time. So of course, yeah, I did it. And we won, and we won the race. Yeah, we won it. So it wasn't easy because I hadn't run a truck before, but but we ran good enough to pull it off. So that was pretty cool. But I didn't really step back into it was 10 years before I really got back, stepping in a truck. I got more serious about it. But when I did this North Wilkesboro race in '96, it was okay. It was cool, but the series was still in a growth and evolving. And by the time I got involved in the truck series, in the mid 2000s, it was the best racing in NASCAR, the best show, the best racing. Dude, man, you had Mike Skinner, and you had Hornaday, and you had Sprague, and you had Todd Bodine, and you had rivalries, and you had rubbing and bumping and hard racing and feuds. And it was, in the mid 2000s, the truck series was the place for racing. It was the best racing in NASCAR.
Well, that'll do it for episode number 36 of the Mark Martin Podcast. Again, head on over to the website, markmartinpod.com, markmartinpod.com. Get all of your updates, get on your favorite apps, and make sure to give us that 5-star rating.
Thank you for subscribing and listening to the Mark Martin Podcast. Remember to give us a 5-star rating in your app store. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mark Martin POD. The Mark Martin Podcast is a production of the Accelerated Podcast Network.